for originality, creativity, and exploration, you really can't beat what's happening on television now in all of its forms.
Why is writing TV better than writing movies?
Television is the place for innovation now. It's the most exciting area for people who want to create originally. I know that's in contradiction to the tradition, where people thought, well, independent films was me expressing my voice and my idea. Actually, television has so much opportunity now that there are many, many ways to tell your story or to tell any story. And I think just the plethora of opportunity is part of what makes it great. The other thing that makes it great is that you can do the long narrative. That in writing a movie, if it's a 2-hour movie, your story really has to end in 90 minutes or 120 minutes, or even if it's a little bit flexible from that. With television, you can tell a 6-hour story, an 8-hour story, a 13-hour story, a 26-hour story, or a story that lasts 100 hours. And that means that you can expand vertically. By that, what I mean is not that the plot goes on, but that the depth of character is something that you can continue to reveal. And secrets keep coming out over the many, many hours of a show. And it's a different kind of creating. It's a little bit more like life, in the sense that life doesn't end in 2 hours, or it doesn't end when a plot comes to the point that something concludes or finishes. It's the continuity of experience, and all of that is some of what television offers now.
And then I guess the only downside would be that you would have to test your story to make sure that it does have legs to be more than 90 minutes.
Well, in creating a show, an episodic television show, as opposed to, for example, a movie for television, or even a limited series, in doing a longer series, what you need to do is conceive of it at the beginning to make sure that it has legs and springboards. And by that I mean that the story has a potential to continue generating other stories as it goes along, mostly propelled by the characters in the cast. Springboards also means that each episode, whether it's an hour or a half hour or whatever length it is, needs something that springs it forward. Whereas in a movie, you might have, a continuous plot that starts with, whatever the inciting moment is at the beginning, has a certain number of plot points or changes, and comes to a conclusion. And that's really too simple for what television is. So the complexity is something you bring to it from the very, very start. It's not something you find later.
How is writing a television show different from writing a movie?
Writing for television is faster and more specific in terms of getting the internal motor going for the characters. The process, if you're on an actual show, does have to do with deadlines. You have to write fast enough that if you are doing multiple episodes of a show, that you're on schedule. So the idea of the artist in the garret waiting for a muse to strike is not going to work if you're writing for television. You really have to turn out the work. I find that that's actually energizing to the creative process rather than deadening. I think the idea that somebody is waiting for what you have and that there's just that little bit of pressure on you to deliver sometimes helps you actually get to work and to pull out what you need to do. Writing for movies, I don't know how much this industry even exists anymore. There are two ways that people write for movies now. One is that you're on a blockbuster franchise, and that's writing, but it's writing to a formula that is somebody else's. and it is also means you're part of a team, which is essentially director and producer driven, or sometimes even star driven, so that you're the chance for you to exercise your creativity is within those parameters. I wouldn't say it's gone. It's never gone. You can always give whatever you can and bring whatever you can to the story and the characters, but I find that, to me, that's limiting. The other kind of writing for movies or theatrical features is the indie process. The indie process is not a business. The indie process means you need to finance your own material, and you go to the art festivals. The end product of doing indie films is that you might get hired to work on television because there is not much business there. In other words, how many people are going to see some small indie film unless you can get it on Netflix, because now the boundary between what is a movie and what is television is certainly graying, if not eroding completely. Almost all of the premium outlets are doing what I call the shorter form, which is the 2-hour form, or even 90-minute form, as well as much longer. In fact, things are in all sorts of sizes now. You can get a half hour, you can get an hour, you can get 2 hours, you could get more rarely 3 hours or 4 hours, but they happen. 6 hours for a limited series. 8 hours is common for an entire season. 12 and 13 is common for an entire season. There are no more 22-hour seasons, really. And then it goes on to the next year. So you might easily get 36 hours of storytelling on television. In a movie, you have the time that you might need to do your work. If you want to spend 3 months or 6 months or 2 years writing one film, you can do that because it's your own, unless you're being hired. In other words, if you're just doing your own personal movie. If you're being hired, you're back on your schedule again, and the next episode of, Batman or Spider-Man, if you're so lucky to get on those big franchises, is due at a certain date.
So it sounds like then really the only way the artist can sort of be their own driver and sort of work, as you said, in this garret waiting to be discovered, is an art house type film, because television or tentpole movies, it's by committee in a sense.
No, actually. Yes, if you want to do art house films, anybody can do that. You're in the fundraising business. If you do that, you must understand that it is, in a sense, less free, because so much of your time is spent raising money and then marketing. But no, I think that the most artistically creative thing you could do is an original television series, or even certain series that may not be yours, but that give you a great deal of freedom in terms of evolving the characters and the storylines. If you look at something like Atlanta, Donnie Glover's show, or you look at something like Handmaid's Tale, which is, of course, based on a book, or any number of other things, Orange is the New Black, the list is long. There is very little in the theatrical feature arena that is as incisive and challenging and original as some of the work on those shows. So to me, now this is just my own bias. I know there are people who feel differently. My own bias is that for originality, creativity, and exploration, you really can't beat what's happening on television now in all of its forms, if you increase it to really all of the forms.
But one maybe should test themselves. How well do they work in groups?
No, I mean, yes. If you're on the staff of a show, if you're on a staff, it is collaborative. That's true. If you're so fortunate as to be in a writer's room, you will be around a table all day, every day, with 4 or 5 or 7 or 10 or however many you have, fellow writers and producers, creating material. You then go off and do your own individual episode and bring that back to the room. So in that sense, it's a little bit like a writer's workshop, where, yeah, you get the general structure of what you're supposed to do for that episode in the group. You go do it. When it comes back, you're going to get notes from collaborators. You hope, and in the best shows this is true, that these collaborators are all building together to make your episode shine. So there should be, ideally, no sense of competition or, tearing anybody down. It's all a matter of in service to the best possible work and in service to the show. And ultimately, yes, the showrunner's vision. But not everything is like that. If you look at the work at Phoebe Waller-Bridge, whether that's Killing Eve or Fleabag or other things she's done, for the woman's point of view, coming alive on screen, I can't think of anything anywhere that delivers that quite as well as she has done with her television series. Well, if you look at something like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, Vince Gilligan's worlds that he has created are so character-rich that it doesn't even matter if these guys are drug pushers or criminal lawyers or whatever. We love them, we're rooting for them. And that is such a strength, and it comes from the writer.